Hello and welcome back to The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment with Gilda and Barbara. Today we're doing a book study on A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, written by Eckhart Tolle, and we hope that you have your copy so that you can follow along. Today we are on Chapter 10, Section 11, A New Earth, the Frequency Holders. My name is Barbara Wainwright, and I'm here with Gilda Simonet. Welcome, Gilda.
Thank you.
The Frequency Holders. The outward movement into form does not express itself with equal intensity in all people. Some feel a strong urge to build, create, become involved, achieve, make an impact upon the world. If they are unconscious, their ego will, of course, take over and use the energy of the outgoing cycle for its own purposes. This, however, also greatly reduces the flow of creative energy available to them, and increasingly, they need to rely on efforting to get what they want. If they are conscious, those people in whom the outward movement is strong will be highly creative. Others, after the natural expansion that comes with growing up has run its course, lead an outwardly unremarkable, seemingly more passive, and relatively uneventful existence.
They are more inward looking by nature, and for them, the outward movement into form is minimal. They would rather return home than go out. They have no desire to get strongly involved in or change the world. If they have any ambitions, they usually don't go beyond finding something to do that gives them a degree of independence. Some of them find it hard to fit into this world. Some are lucky enough to find a protective niche where they can lead a relatively sheltered life, a job that provides them with a regular income, or a small business of their own. Some may feel drawn toward living in a spiritual community or a monastery. Others may become dropouts and live on the margins of a society they feel they have little in common with. Some turn to drugs because they find living in this world too painful. Others eventually become healers or spiritual teachers. That is to say, teachers of being.
I know people that live exactly like that. They have some ambition, but they don't drive themselves to go beyond finding something that gives them a degree of independence. They're self employed and they're making money and they're getting by, but that's all they want. They have no ambition to go out and change the world. I'll just say it that way. They have no ambition to go out and change the world. Then there's others, which I feel like, this process that we're doing with reading this book is very much in alignment with some feel a strong urge to build, create, become involved, achieve, and make an impact upon the world. And both of us, I believe, fall into that category. We're here, we're being creative, we're showing up, and hopefully we're making an impact on the world. And from our feedback that we get, I believe we are. So it's so interesting. And then he goes on to say that some turn to drugs because they find living in this world too painful. And I know a lot of people like that too, that they just can't handle the pain, the reality of life. And a lot of it comes down to mindset, which is what he talks about in this entire book. It's all about mindset, right? Don't put your mind in the past, don't put it in the future, stay present in the moment, and you'll be fine. Well, that's easier said than done. And so what happens is people get depressed or they turn to drugs or eventually become healers or spiritual teachers. That is to say, teachers of being. And I feel like that is our goal to help people on a path of spiritual enlightenment because life can be amazing if you have the right mindset, if you're conscious, if you're aware, because our thoughts create our reality, hands down. If you spend enough time thinking about it, you'll figure it out that that is fact. And once you are aware of that and you know that that's true, then you become a guardian of your thinking and your thoughts and what you allow into your mind. And once you do that, that is when life becomes really good. In past ages, they would probably have been called contemplatives. There is no place for them, it seems, in our contemporary civilization. On the arising new earth, however, their role is just as vital as that of the creators, the doers, the reformers. Their function is to anchor the frequency of the new consciousness on this planet. I call them the frequency holders. They are here to generate consciousness through the activities of daily life, through their interactions with others, as well as through just being.
In this way, they endow the seemingly insignificant with profound meaning. Their task is to bring spacious stillness into this world by being absolutely present in whatever they do. There is consciousness and therefore quality in what they do, even the simplest task. Their purpose is to do everything in a sacred manner. As each human being is an integral part of the collective human consciousness, they affect the world much more deeply than is visible on the surface of their lives.
Well, this is so true. And I'm really not aware of the numbers of, how many people are frequency holders, how many people are out there wanting to make a huge impact upon the world. But I think that the ones that are becoming involved and want to achieve and want to make an impact are much fewer than the ones that are frequency holders. And I used to meet with a group of women and we would meditate together. It was a group meditation, and we would just bring in spiritual energy and light, and we would envision healing on the planet. And it was just a very spiritual endeavor that we did. And we did it for 10 years. We'd meet once a month and we'd bring that beautiful white light healing energy and see our planet surrounded by this beautiful white light and a healing occurring. So we were holding the frequency. And that was a group of probably about 10 of us that did that for 10 years. So I can see how, yeah, there are frequency holders out there and they're doing their spiritual work, if you will, which is profound, even though they might not have any recognition. The work that they're doing is so necessary, is the word that's coming to mind, for the upliftment of humanity. And it takes courage to speak up and have a voice and get on a podcast, knowing that thousands will hear it and share about your journey in spirituality, your awakening, the process that you went through, and doing it because you want to give back for the gifts that you have received. It could be a very ego driven exercise. And like Eckhart says, the creativity kind of goes out the window if ego is involved. And it could also be very much like I feel Eckhart's work is, it could also be a spiritual practice, which is sharing your own courage, strength, and hope for a better world with others, and also sharing that, yeah, if you're not conscious, life can really suck. But if you wake up and recognize that it's your thinking, it's your thoughts that create reality, then you can get it.
I think for me personally, like I strive to be a frequency holder, but because I'm striving to be a frequency holder, it isn't always about just like being calm or spiritual all the time. Like for me, it's about choosing not to like abandon myself. When I find myself in moments of like discomfort and, I don't always hold the frequency. Like I lose it sometimes, I forget, I react, but I always come back, and I feel like that returning feels sacred to me because then it becomes like a choice, like to stay here, like inside my body, inside my breath, like especially when my mind wants to leave and create all these scenarios and whatnot. It's like, no, um, so it's more of like a choice.
Yeah, I think that's part of the human condition. The thoughts come. Fortunately, for me, I hear them first in my mind and go, "Ooh, there's an egoic thought," and then I don't express it out loud. I stop it right there. It's like the thought will come, and I go, "Oh, you can tell when it's ego. Ego is judgment, right? It's judging. So when I hear a judgmental thought come into my mind, I go, "Ooh, yeah, that's not going anywhere," and I dismiss it. But I think it's part of the human condition having those egoic thoughts. They're gonna be there. We're human beings after all. I don't know anybody that has professed to never have an egoic thought. It's being conscious of the fact that we have these thoughts, and we can decide, if we're awake and aware, we can decide whether or not we want to express those thoughts.
It's so true. Awareness is super important and just being mindful of what's going on in your mind and realizing that most of the stuff that is going on through your mind is probably ego and it's not really necessary. And I've been finding myself catching my ego a lot more lately. And it's kind of cool, because it's like, oh, wait, that's an egoic thought. I've even caught myself saying the egoic thought, but then catching myself then being like, oh, shoot, I had the thought and then I let it slip out. But I am happy to know that I can catch it. Even if it does slip out, I can even catch it then and be like, oops, okay, let's take that away, you know?
I agree. That is being awake when you can hear the thought. I mean, it's mastery if you can hear it, determine whether or not it's ego or spirit, and then dismiss it if it's ego and acknowledge if it's spirit. But it's mastery of your mind at that point, and it's human to fall, to slip, to have a moment where your ego jumps out. That's part of the human condition, I believe. And I don't know very many people that don't have a moment every now and again where their ego just takes the wheel, if you will, and they act out, strike out, just, do something that to me is appalling in behavior wise, but that's because they're acting from their ego. And conscious people will acknowledge it and make amends after. Like, oh my, my ego really got the best of me there. And I apologize for any, pain or suffering that I caused because of it. Unconscious people are acting from their egoic self and they don't care. Anyway, I really like this little section about the frequency holders. I think they are probably the majority of people that are spiritually awake and aware. I'm certainly married to one of them, and I admire and appreciate them. And at the same time, I know that I'm called. I'm doing what I'm called to do. I had so many messages, if you will, from spirit to do this podcast. It was years before I did the podcast, or before we got met, before it got started. It was years. I wouldn't have done it if Gilda, if you didn't step up and say, I'll do it with you, I wouldn't have done it. That's the truth of it. To me, this is my church, if you will. We show up once a week, we meet, we talk about spiritual concepts, ideas, and the way that we would like to implement them in our lives today, here and now. What can we do to be better people? It is a spiritual practice to meet once a week and share these ideas in a podcast form. And now we're at 5 years. We're over 5 years of doing this. I really appreciate you being part of it, Gilda. I like I said, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't do this without you.
Thank you so much. I love you, Barbara.
I love you too. Oh gosh. Well, I'm kind of sad to say that next week is our last week of this book. So I'm sad about that because we're going to close this book and it's going to be done. However, I am very excited that we are going to be reading from Awakening to Divine Purpose, a guide through the 6 stages of spiritual awakening, because I believe that's another message that is meant to be shared with the world. Anyway, I'm excited to start reading it next in 2 weeks, because next week we're going to read the last section of this book. Thank you all for joining us and for hanging in there through this entire book of A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. And we'll wrap it up next week. Until then, hope you have a good one. Bye now.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to experience a deeper connection, we have 2 beautiful options. You can work with Gilda as your coach to apply these teachings in your real life. Or if you feel called to help others transform, you can become a certified professional coach through Wainwright Global. To learn more, join our Facebook group, The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment with Gilda and Barbara. Send us a direct message, just type the word coach, and we'll reply with the details and help you choose the best fit.